Okay, seventh graders. So just a reminder, I'm kind of going to go over a lot here that we are going to listen to this and that I won't be on with Google Meets today because I have an appointment. So I want to go over the process of mitosis with you. I think it's important to be sure that we understand the whole idea of mitosis. So it will be helpful to you to be able to pay attention to that right now. So that being said, a couple things to remember. Mitosis is another way of saying, hey, those cells have to divide and make copies of themselves. When we've been talking about the cell lately, we obviously know that there's a lifespan for a cell and that they have to divide or make new ones, and we call that replication. So you're going to see a couple things today where they talk about replication. And really what has to happen is the DNA, the chromosomes, right? The genetic information that make those cells what they are and us who we are is really, really important, and it has to be copied. So that's the whole idea of the cell dividing. But another fancy name for making a copy of itself is replication. So we're going to go through mitosis here, and we're going to go through it a lot of different ways in the next few class periods. So just bear with me, and we're going to talk about a couple things. Once you've finished this video, there is going to be a doc that you're going to fill out, and you have access to this slideshow on your Google Classroom assignment today. So don't feel like you can't go back and look at the slides and all of that, but right now you're just listening. So when we talk about mitosis, we talk about it being basically division of what we call the body cells, right? So somatic is another name for body cells. So this is like all of the different cells in your body other than your sex cells. So each minute, think about this, your body needs to make about 300 million new cells. So just since I've been talking, that's pretty amazing. So as we grow and we change, right? Living things need new cells. For example, skin tissue, bone tissue, muscle tissue, right? So they only come from other cells, right? That's part of our cell theory that we've been talking about. So that happens through what we call mitosis. So when we talk about somatic cells, that's any of our body cells. So the ones that we were just mentioning, pretty much every single type of cell in your body except for the sex cells, and we'll talk about those another day. So it allows us to grow and develop from a single cell to trillions of cells. We can repair, replace cells, and basically go through our everyday life. And this is for, not just us, for plants, for other animals, and so on and so forth. So this is a fancy picture of the cell cycle. So you don't have to memorize this or anything like that. And you're going to see it a couple of different ways in the next few class periods here. But basically, there is what we call interphase. This is where the cell hangs out when it's not dividing or not making more, so that it spends a lot of time in interphase. And then we have these different other stages or phases. We have G1, where basically it grows and does its normal operations and it's in interphase. And then we have replication or copying in the S phase. Then we have this G2 phase where it prepares. And then these are the stages we're going to spend some good time talking about. Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase or telophase, and then cytokinesis. So this is technically mitosis. So I want you to pay attention to that part. So I'm going to break down some of these right here, right now, along with interphase, to kind of explain them a little more. And again, just listen. You'll get time to do more of this later. All right, so interphase is where it spends most of its time, and that's an actual cell right there. So that's kind of interesting. So remember, it spends most of its time here. It grows, it breaks down things, it does things that it's supposed to in the cell, like making synthesizing proteins and enzymes and all these other fancy things. So it's getting ready for mitosis. It's getting ready for that dividing and making more. So if you can see right here, this is pretty cool, but this is the nucleus and the nucleolus. So you can definitely see them very, very clearly. And the chromosomes in there look like spaghetti noodles, we say. So that's kind of fun to look at. All right, now this is another great picture. The nuclear membrane has to start breaking down to start, right, that process of mitosis. And so the chromosomes kind of shorten and get thicker. And then A chromosome kind of has two parts, like an X shape, if you think about it that way. So each side or each part is called a sister chromatid because it's supposed to be together. So each side is called a chromatid. And so they make this like X shape, and they line up kind of in the middle at this part we call a centromere. So that's important. And we talked about centrioles the other day, but they are developing, right? So this is prophase. This is the first sort of like stage of or phase of mitosis. Now we have metaphase. This is a great picture too. Look at these. These centrioles are fully formed, and they're found actually at the poles, at the ends, right? And then there's these fibers, right, that extend. And look at, they line up. The chromosomes are lined up right at what we call the equator, right? And so that's kind of fun. You see them literally lining up. And it's the shortest phase when we talk about metaphase. So that's kind of cool. And then anaphase, right? The centromeres split. Look at this. It's starting to pull away from each side. And so they're going to move this way and they're going to move that way. And we call those the opposite poles of the cell, right? Towards those centrioles, towards those reproductive pieces that help. And then that was anaphase. Now we're in telophase. Look at this. You're starting to see two new cells, right? So the chromosomes are reaching the opposite poles, and those centrioles and all of that start to kind of separate and break down. So the plasma membrane of the cell pinches down the middle, so it starts to make two new cells. That's kind of cool. And the chromosomes start to become less thick, right? So they're going kind of back to what they were before, if you think about it. They're not as thick and not getting ready for cell division because they've already divided. And then we have cytokinesis. So cyto means cell, kinesis means movement. So we're saying, hey, the cell's moving because it's dividing into two new cells, right? Now, these two new cells are what we call daughter cells. So we had a parent cell that divided into two new daughter cells. These cells have the same amount of genetic information that their parents did. And that's important to note. They're identical to the parent. That's a very big piece to remember. And so this is, the end here isn't really important, but this is just some cancer cells that were shown, and not that big of a deal. And then this last slide we don't need either. So that's that. What you're going to do right now, because I'm not here to teach you today, is you're going to hop onto your Google Classroom, and there's going to be Mr. Bozeman, the awesome science teacher, who we all learn so much from. He is going to, if you click on that Edpuzzle video on mitosis, he's going to be explaining it a little bit differently, but very similarly, and you're going to answer some questions about that and turn that in on Google Classroom. So you're going to do that during class today, and you're going to turn that in, okay? I know that we still possibly have some cell projects to present, and we will do that next class period on Monday because we don't have school on Friday. And I think that's all I have for you today. Just make sure that you do turn this assignment in when you finish the sheet that goes with it. So do that right now, and you can go through these slides again if you need to. And then hop over to Mr. Bozeman on Edpuzzle in your Google Classroom and do that and answer the questions. Turn that in. Both of these should be turned in by the end of class. Have a great day. If you have any questions, email me. Just a reminder, I will not be on my office hours today because I do have this appointment.